right, let's bring in Annelise Nielsen, Sky News Washington correspondent, who is currently in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Annelise, thanks so much for coming on tonight. Bethlehem is considered a boomerang county because it voted for Obama, then Trump, then Biden. What are you seeing out there?
That's right, James. There's only 25 counties in the country that did the same thing. So we thought it would be a good idea to come up here and check what people are thinking and feeling ahead of the election, because it's these voters that ultimately decide who will become the president of the United States. And so far what we've seen is the Democrats have very much closed that enthusiasm gap. There was the real issue of Joe Biden, that people weren't excited about him, the ongoing concerns about his mental capacity to take on another 4 years at his age, and that was a real issue for regular voters. That was not just a talking point in Washington, D.C. What we've seen from voters we've spoken to here is they are enthusiastic about Kamala Harris, but equally, all those voters who are enthusiastic to vote Republican, to vote Trump, haven't changed their mind either. So what we're seeing is a much tighter race, and there's still division across the board. Younger voters aren't excited, and that could spell trouble for Democrats when it comes to actually casting their vote in a system where voting is not compulsory. So here's some voters we spoke to. This was in eastern Pennsylvania, still the same county we're in now, Northampton County in Pennsylvania, so the same boomerang county. And this is what they're saying about the upcoming election.
I actually like Trump.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think he's done a lot for our country. And I know some people may not like him because of his character, you know, certain things he said. But I think what we need to look more at are the policies that are being implemented that can impact our country. And so I don't like Harris as a candidate.
I think we're choosing between two evils, and you got to do what you got to do. Yeah.
Well, what else? That's it.
I mean, yeah. It's my first year being able to vote, so my options are kind of cool, I guess.
He has been pretty successful as the actual executive, so I think it was necessary from that vantage point, even if it feels a little bit untraditional in terms of how they think about putting people in office. But I think there's a distinction between the candidate Biden versus the president, and I think there was a difference.
And Annalise, Pennsylvania, with its big tranche of electoral votes, is a really important state for both sides. They both need to win it. Kamala Harris made a big announcement about the vice presidential nominee in Philadelphia. How has the pick of Tim Walz, who is not the Pennsylvania governor, Josh Shapiro, gone down? Has there been any disappointment among Pennsylvanians over that?
Look, what we've heard from most Pennsylvanians when I've asked about Tim Walz is they've said, who? They don't know who he is. He doesn't have a big presence in the United States. And so that's the risky part of the equation for the Democrats in bringing him in, is if the more this information comes out about how he's run Minnesota, how he's put in some very progressive policies, that could start to alienate people. But frankly, what people have been talking about is Kamala Harris. They do like Shapiro. They like that he's staying in as the governor, that they're not losing him, because governors are so important in the United States. But what they have been frustrated about is the lack of new blood. And so the idea that Kamala Harris is coming in at the last minute, while she gets all the benefits of not having a long campaign, of not doing the primaries and not having every bit examined, she's the fresh face just a few months out. This is the challenge Republicans are going to have now, is prosecuting that case in this very short amount of time they've been given.
Well, we finally got word just a little while ago about a debate, finally a presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris on the 10th September U.S. time. Speaking out of Mar-a-Lago, Trump made it clear that the border is going to take a very large role in this discussion at the debate, and I think through the campaign. Have a look at this.
But I look forward to the debates because I think we have to set the record straight. Why is it that millions of people were allowed to come into our country from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions, insane asylums, even insane asylums? It's a mental institution on steroids.
So in that grab there, we saw Donald Trump talking very much about the border and about the hard bits of the policy on the border that he says Kamala Harris didn't handle well when she was border czar. On the other hand, Kamala Harris is very much running on the vibe. How much can this vibe, this sort of positive attitude, survive contact with actual questions from the press? And is she going to get questions from the press about what she's done and what she would do as president?
So we've had her answer her first questions from reporters today as she was boarding a plane on the tarmac, and these were not tough questions. I think one of the miscalculations in this, though, from the Republican perspective, is they've been going after Tim Walz's service from the National Guard, that he dropped out before he went to his group for the National Guards went to Iraq. This is not a strong campaign point for them. That's not something that cuts through even for veterans, when Donald Trump's known to have avoided going to Vietnam because of his bone spurs. So this was the only kind of pushback question she was asked in this very limited capacity. So there's the dual issue there. They need to really hone in what their attacks are and make that a more pointed attack on something that's a lot more vulnerable. So I think if Donald Trump does really make sure that the focus is on the border, that's going to be much tougher for Kamala to answer not only what she's done, but what she's going to do, because this is what changes in this whole race now. She's got her record as a vice president to defend, but she also has to make the case for what she's going to do. And this is where they could have some advantage in the debate. And also, having watched Kamala Harris before, she's dropped out in 2020 before the primaries. She doesn't have a strong track record of doing this campaigning, and really the best example we can watch of her in this kind of environment is from her Senate hearings, confirmation hearings with the likes of Brett Kavanaugh. I don't know if her kind of style is going to translate very well against someone like Donald Trump. So if he brings his normal A game for debates, he's known as a very good debater, he really dominates the stage every time, she's going to have a tough time. And I think that's why he wants 3 debates. She was pushing, saying that he wouldn't show up to the 1 debate. But frankly, everything does change once you change who the actual candidate is on the ticket. So this is kind of the unfairness of this whole calculation now going forward, is they haven't followed any of the normal protocol up until this point. But most voters haven't been as engaged now as they are now.
Thank you so much for your time, Annelise Nielsen. Really appreciate it coming to us from Pennsylvania.
Thank you.